Have you ever wondered about the kinds of diffusion material you shoot your lights through? And how, if at all, they have any effect on the quality of the light of your images? That's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I first want to thank one of my patrons for suggesting the idea to make this video. I thought it was a great idea. And in addition, a few of you have asked about the rolls of diffusion material that I use, and I wanted to spend this time showing you why I think it's something to consider whenever you want to modify your light. A big part of what developed my fascination with this was watching how cinematographers, filmmakers craft and shape light with certain tools, and an aspect that I found interesting was that not all diffusion material was created equal. What I'm saying is that there are many different grades of diffusion material that are made to yield specific results, either in how the shadows look or even how it reflects off of certain surfaces. How, you're probably asking? Well, that's what I'm going to show you right now. The main difference I want to point out is how the bare bulb flash created the shadows versus how the half density soft frost diffusion material, which is what it's called, created its shadows. If you look at the diffusion material itself,
so I'm sure you guys recognize this diffusion material.
It doesn't look like it diffuses much at all. I mean, like, it's pretty transparent. You can kind of see right through it. So the question is, in what way does this material diffuse light? Well, if you look closely, it makes a really subtle difference. You can see that it sort of creams the shadow edges. Can I say creams? Creams is a good word. It makes that transition a little less sharp, while the whole look overall still maintains that hard light feel. And comparing it to the bare bulb flash, initially it may look the same, but the one with the soft frost diffusion eases that sharp contrast between the shadows and highlights so as to make them less distracting. All right, now let's compare the tough white diffusion versus the 5-in-1 reflector. So I didn't see much of a difference in terms of the shadows that these casted. But then I looked at the egg itself, and I noticed that the light gradients on them were different. The tough white diffusion created a wider range gradient from highlight to shadow. As you can see, the bright part of the egg is really bright and constantly shifts its tone into dark shadow as you move from left to right. The light gradient created by the 5-in-1, however, doesn't quite do that. The highlight area looks more constant, meaning that it's almost just one tone, which overall makes it look more matte in this case. So what is going on here? Well, what I realized was that depending on the type of material the light shoots through determines how the light will behave when casted onto your subject. This is why the two materials that you would think would just diffuse light actually came with two different results. So to really illustrate this, I decided to photograph the egg on black plexiglass so that I can both photograph the egg and show the reflection of the diffusion material through the plexiglass. I think this way we can really see what's going on between these respective diffusion materials, and what I found was actually pretty fascinating. Comparing the 5-in-1 and the tough white diffusion in particular, I think we can answer our earlier question as to why the two respective materials gave different looks on the egg itself. The gradient of light from tough white diffusion is much more pleasing than the reflection from the 5-in-1 reflector. So even just from this, we can see that the kind of diffusion material that you use does make a difference in how the light will fall onto your subject. My biggest struggle with experimenting with this was whether this even matters. Like, is this even a big deal? And for the most part, especially for food photography, yeah, I don't think it matters. The goal is to make food look amazing, and if a $50 softbox does the job, then it does the job. And it's hard to think that subtle differences in shadow transition and variances in light gradients will give or take away from that. But perhaps if you're anything like me, and you obsess over the little details of light, and you love experimenting with light, you love having the creative flexibility to create many different looks, or say, if your client wants the lighting to be soft but not too soft, yes, I've gotten that before. How would you do it? My point being, for all practical purposes, I would say that this isn't a big deal. Like, it's not something to worry about. But if you're looking for refinement in your work, being able to create more flexibility in your workflow and the different types of looks that you can create, then I think this would be worth looking into. All right, well, I hope this video at least gave you some insight to how light is diffused. And if you decide to pick one of these rolls up, just remember that you would need a stand that has a horizontal boom arm so that you can hang it up. You can get a C stand just like what I use with a boom arm, or you can use a backdrop stand as well. I think that would work just fine. And Rosco has a ton of variety with these diffusion rolls, so you can go to the website and look for more information if you're interested, or you can ask another photography buddy to help you out. All right, well, give this video a thumbs up if you did find it helpful, and remember to subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.